Here from the top. All right. What up, everyone? Zafa Slater, the new and improved comic outlaw, aka El Chingon. And we kind of caught on to something here, so we're going to keep the ball rolling. We're going to do 3 episodes, and then we might do another 3 episodes. So this is episode 3. We talked about the relationship between Batman and the Joker. We touched on Batman and the Riddler. And by request, someone threw this out there, the relationship between Batman and Ra's al Ghul, the Demon's Head. For you people that don't know who Ra's is, he went back in the O'Neill times, and he's kind of what they would consider an environmental terrorist. He kind of does things his own way. He bathes in a Lazarus pit. So he becomes an old man. He takes a dip in it, becomes youngish again. I mean, at one point he looked 20, but now he looks like he's in his 40s. He lives about, I don't know, like 200 years or something like that, and then he has to take another dip. And it drives you temporarily insane. I mean, getting pulled all the way back from the dead. Once you hit the spirit world, it would drive you a wee bit nuts when you come back. So, quick slap in the face, he's fine. I believe it was Dennis O'Neill. Right around that time. And this man is a lot like Batman. They called him the Moriarty. And fascinating character. I think it was Adams, something like that. And yeah, these guys like revolutionized Batman. They there was a revolution in the 70s, the late 60s, the early 70s. Characters grew up. They actually grew up. So, if you read like Green Lantern, he was teamed up with Green Arrow. It was a coming of age for Hal Jordan. It was a time when Green Arrow was kind of coming into his own. That dark, broody Green Arrow, this was the precursor to it. So, Hal Jordan's kind of starting to the parallax whole thing. All this stuff started around this time. Comic books went through a revolution where the readers were growing up. They read comics back in the day. So they started to grow up. They started to get a little more mature. They started to get more PG-13 and, dare I say, R. Now, Ra's was a product of this. And if you watch the animated series, this is why I keep harping on the animated series, because they give you an idea of what happened without you having to read comic after comic after comic after comic. I like reading comic after comic after comic, so I'm good with it. But some people that just want to dip their toe in, I want to know who Ra's is, but I really don't want to read like 50 comic books. You can watch Batman the Animated Series. And in a few episodes, you could get to know this man. That's why I keep talking about it. Basically, like you said, he's Moriarty. That's what they based him on. If Batman is Sherlock Holmes, Ra's al Ghul is Moriarty. And he has a daughter, Talia al Ghul, who ends up being with Bruce. In the story, she slips him a love potion. And, in his mind, that song goes, "Don't you wanna love me sexy?" And they end up doing their thing, and Damien's a byproduct of that. I personally, I don't think it was a love potion. I think Batman just was caught off guard. He was slipped a little wine, and whatever happened, happened. But that's just my opinion. That is just my opinion. But Ra's wants him as a replacement. And I think Roz kind of sees Bruce as a boy too. I mean, if you watch the cartoons with Damien, Court of Owls, Bad Blood, Damien, in a very messed up way, and he needs seasoning, he needs discipline, he's a little more realistic than Bruce. He's a little more realistic than Bruce. I mean, he realizes, Dad, why is the Joker doing this when we just... Because Damien was trained in the League of Assassins. So he was taught to dispense with people like that. He was taught to get rid of people like that. So there's a difference between Bruce and Damien. It kind of changes the nature of their relationship if you think about it. I say Damien's kind of stuck in the maturity level of a 12-year-old. And Roz raised him to be Bruce's replacement. I think. A Batman that doesn't mind the blood. And he was sent there to learn from Bruce. Now this is just my theory. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But this is my theory. And they said Roz died, or nobody ever dies. I mean, comic books, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You know, maybe Uncle Ben, Spider-Man. This is a Batman show, but I'm just throwing out an example. But certain people just don't die. But I think this is Roz and Talia's plan. Send the boy out. Let him learn from his naive father. Let him learn everything, every skill, every other thing. And then, when Bruce decides to step down, I will tutor him. I will grow him up. I'll make him a suitable husband for Talia. And in the meantime, his son, my heir, will be Batman. A better Batman. A Batman who can solve the problems of Gotham. That's what I think. And in that time, Roz is searching for, looking for, because he sees Bruce as a capable, smart, intelligent, brilliant man. But has the maturity of a little boy. And Talia loves him for it. But they want to grow him up. And yes, they do a lot of sinister stuff. I mean, you have to read between the lines of the comic books. Of the things that happen and the things that don't happen. A lot of it is based on either Batman's perspective or Robin's perspective. If you read a comic book, it's usually based on the hero's perspective. Their side of the story. The way they see things. Or if they do a supervillain comic, it's their perspective. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. So when you read a comic, you have to remember, this is Batman's story. This is Superman's story. This is Green Lantern's story. And it's always done from their perspective. We all tell stories based on our perspective. So you have to remember that when you read Batman. And that's what I always thought about Roz. Roz is a man. He's lived thousands of years. Well, probably about, a couple thousand. So he's seen it. And maybe he was naive at one point like Bruce. And he grew up. He realized that sometimes the job has to get done. And you have to break a few eggs to do it. I think that's why he took Damien. When he found out Talia was pregnant. And raised him to be not just like him, but like Bruce. To the point where he could send them with Bruce. And he can learn from him. He could get schooled by him. And then become a replacement so Talia and Roz can work on Bruce, so they can grow him up, so that he can be a man and realize that Gotham isn't black and white. It isn't cowboys and Indians. It isn't cops and robbers when you're a little kid and you have a little plastic gun going pew, 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 pew. It's real life. It's gritty. People die. And I think that's why Gotham is in so much trouble sometimes, where there's so much crime and so much murder. And I think Roz realizes that too. And I think, personally, that that's what Damien was for. I mean, Damien, it just happened, but Roz saw it as an opportunity. I can make a Batman. I can make a Batman. A man that goes out and does what a man's supposed to do. And I can save this man, this boy, this full-grown man that acts like a boy that my daughter loves with all her heart and soul. I can teach him. I can heal him. I can show him the real world. That's what I think. And like I said, comics are based on a story, from the superhero, the supervillain's perspective, so take that with a grain of salt. That's my opinion on Ra's al Ghul through Natalia. Damien mentioned a little bit of the family. And you know what? Just because my producer's telling me, drop an ad, subscribe. I mean, anything. Spread the word. Lord knows we could use the money. Zafa Slater, a.k.a. El Chingon. And as always, I'll catch you on the flip side. Laters.